Welcome to the inspiration segment of the Thriving Launch podcast. Today we're going to talk about a guy who went from prisoner to millionaire and how we can get trapped into being prisoners in our own minds and how to find mega success.
Welcome to Thriving Launch with Luis Congdon and Kamala Chambers, the show for heart-centered entrepreneurs who want it all.
5 days a week, we bring you different segments to inspire you to live a life of freedom. We interview the leading experts in the field of business, health, and love. Be sure to check out Training Tuesdays, where we give you a clear action plan to grow your own business. Maybe you can relate to this. When I was a full-time coach, keep repeating the same things to people over and over and over again, and it got to be kind of draining, and I wasn't really enjoying what I was doing anymore. So what I decided to do was record the things that I had to tell clients over and over and over again, and then I packaged those recordings together and sold them as an online course. If you're interested in creating and selling your own online course, head over to thrivinglaunch.com, and I have a free training for you on how to create and make passive income through your own online course.
All right, so today's guest, Mike Pisciotta. Now, you already know he was in prison for 10 years. He came out at the age of nearly 30 years old. Internet had just come out. Podcasts had already come out. A lot of stuff in the world of technology had happened. So he was coming into this whole completely brand new world. Can you imagine? So Mike Pisciotta comes out of prison. Now, years later, he's running a business that's generating over $70,000, $80,000 a month. He's married, has kids, very successful business, running in multiple niches. And now he's all about funnels, funnel fanatics, and selling. Mike Pisciotta is truly an inspiration. Today, we're going to be learning how he was able to make it through those 10 years, self-educate, learn 5 languages, motivate himself on a daily basis inside of the prison walls to not be imprisoned, and how to be educated and really find a strength that all of us could really borrow from and utilize in our own lives and in our own business struggles, in our own life struggles, in our own hustle, and utilize the mindset that Mike's going to be sharing with us to help us move through and move past everything that's in our way. So without further ado, let's get started. All right. Welcome to the Thriving Launch podcast. We are here with Mike. Mike, are you ready to launch?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Awesome. Mike, I've been watching you online. You've been crushing it, and it's really cool to watch your success. I'm connected with a variety of marketers, funnel experts, and I know that you have a unique story because a lot of us marketers haven't had the spoon in our mouth, so to speak. We've been self-made people. But you have a unique story because you were in prison for 10 years, and that deeply impacts a lot of people. So guys, before we jump into kind of like the takeaways, the educational piece of the show, I'd love to hear a little bit about your story, because I believe from stories we can learn a lot. So Mike, why don't you just kind of start us off? Like, man, I'm curious, how did you end up in prison? How does that impact a person?
Cool, man. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways we could talk about it. Obviously, there's 10 years there. But so the first 18 years of my life, I grew up in an extremely just dysfunctional home, and drugs, all the wrong things. So I was never exposed to anything good, anything positive. You know, all I saw was negative. And not just seeing the negative, but it was my mindset. The way that I viewed life was so negative, so down in the dumps. I was in prison long before I went into a physical prison. And at the age of 18, I was addicted to pills. I woke up one day in a jail cell and had no idea what I had done, man. And it was a real wake-up call to me. It allowed me to get myself aside and actually look at life from a sober perspective, separated from family, separated from the world, the streets, the place that I knew. And it allowed me to start getting exposed to things that I never would have been exposed to. Even though I was in a jail cell, in a prison environment, you would think that it would just kind of carry a person further down. So I wake up in the cell and they wind up giving me 10 years. And I was 18 years old at the time, man, and you could imagine probably what that might have felt like. And, you know, I felt like somebody just handed me this huge boulder and said, here, carry this up that mountain. That's exactly
were you sentenced to 10 years at the age of 18, or you went back again?
No, that's it. I was only one time. I was
Okay.
sentenced. I was sentenced to 10 years at the age of 18.
Wow.
I did the entire 10-year sentence because of the way that the sentencing structure here in the state of Florida was. I wound up having to do the entire 10 years. So there was like no get off for good time. I went from 18 until I was 28 years old, and that was it. And so I think one of the most pivotal moments for that I really want folks to hear and that I like to share about the story, and what I think really allowed those 10 years to be probably some of the most valuable years of my life, really. And I found myself in a prison cell, and it was probably about a year and a half into my sentence. And I was up there, I was exercising, and I was kind of having a conversation with God, having this internal conversation with myself, kind of analyzing and processing what was ahead of me and what I had to do ahead of me. And I made this internal commitment, and it shaped the entire way that I spent my time. And I made this commitment inside of me, recognizing that the choices that I'd made are why I was where I was. And I said to myself that, I chose to give them 10 years of my freedom. I did that. It was my fault, my choices, but I'm going to choose to not give them 10 years of my life. And so that choice shaped how I spent my time in prison. I spent from the time I woke up to the time that I went to bed immersed in everything: business, marketing, self-help, spiritual, in the Bible, exercising, using every moment that I had. I learned how to read, write, and speak 5 foreign languages. I used every moment that I had to prepare myself for opportunities that would present themselves when I walked out of those gates.
And what was the thing that inspired you to do that, to spend that time? I mean, because you were really young when you went in there. That's a pretty bold choice to make as a young man.
Yeah, I mean, most people, whenever I hear about prison or read books about prison or watch movies about prison, the kind of common thing that you hear about people is that prison is a place to become a better criminal.
And that is extremely true, man. Unfortunately, that's about 99% of the case, man. And I think it was a combination of things. I think being in that cell, like when I first woke up, there was kind of like just this realization of like who I had become and the effects of my choices. And like just starting to see that really kind of breaks a person, man. And it really makes you like, wow, this is what you've done. And I wasn't a dumb kid growing up. I was just involved in all the wrong things. When I was in school, I was in gifted classes. So I didn't really have excuses to kind of go that route, other than the environment and my family upbringing and the drugs that got involved kind of led me that way. So waking up in that cell and seeing what I was facing and the sentence and all of those things just kind of culminated to just kind of break a person and make me see, wow, man, you have to change this. You cannot be one of these guys that just, this is becoming a revolving door for you. You can't be a guy that walks out and just continues to come back over and over and over again. And I knew the only way to do that was to change the way I thought about life and to change my perspectives and expose myself to just a different things that I'd never been exposed to before.
And so what are one of the, a lot of us in business, and, I'll just kind of share something about me, because a lot of people are watching Kamala and I, or maybe they're watching you, Mike, and they're going, man, these guys, they have all these fortitude and they're so strong and they're crushing it, and people get really motivated and it's exciting. But a lot of people don't know that I have days where I just feel really down. And recently I've been going through kind of a tough time. We're upgrading our business. We're going through all these new challenges. And I've been like, Jesus, what are we going to do? How can I keep my mind strong? And I'm thinking about being in prison, and you're surrounded. One of my teachers, Yogananda, said that your environment is stronger than will. And oftentimes it's very true. A lot of times your environment will shape you, right? This kind of nature nurture thing. And then Here you are cultivating your own nurturing, your own way of being, when it completely contradicts your environment. What are some of the strategies? I mean, even for business people, this is very applicable. What are some of the strategies that you utilize? What are some of the ways that you shut your mind off from the world around you and said, I'm not going to let them tell me how I'm going to be. I'm not going to be imprisoned, even though I've got these walls around me. I'm going to create freedom while I'm here. How did you do that?
Probably a couple of ways. I think one of the things that fueled me and allowed me to continue to press in throughout. And like you said earlier, man, the environment is so negative. The more that I immersed myself in good things, the more that, the inmates would make fun of me. The guards would go out of their way to try to dissuade me and, oh, you're going to come back. You're not going to apply. You're just a loser, and constantly. And I think one side of me, kind of just the way that I'm built, like those things fueled me. Like, I'll show you, like, I'm not going to be what you think that I'm going to be. And that side kind of fueled me. And at the other side, there's tons of days, man, where, you kind of feel beat down and you're like, you question things like, you wonder, am I going to be able to do it? And I think throughout the time in prison, probably the number one nagging thing that I always had to just deal with and face was that I knew that I was going to be leaving a prison and stepping out into a world that did not wait for me. I would be 28 years old, and everybody my age would be years ahead of me, leap years ahead of me, right? In their careers, they've got families. I'm barely even going to be able to get a job. And that was something throughout my time that I always had to deal with and bring into perspective. And I think that keeping that in the forefront of my mind was kind of one of those things I think that motivated me to kind of be better, because I knew that I had a huge disadvantage. And so knowing that internally is kind of what spurred me on to continue to add things to my portfolio of what I knew, what I was capable of, my skill set, opportunities that I could seize upon, because I knew that the deck was stacked tremendously against me. So I knew that when I walked out, I had to be like tip top, ready, primed, and just able to seize any opportunity that presented to me. So I think that was kind of one of those things that continued to fuel me. And then I think the other side was seeing the negativity. It was kind of disgusting. I mean, to be honest with you, being in that environment, I would just see the way that these guys think. And like you said, wanting to become better criminals. And I would be like, wow, do you not want to be free, man? Do you not want, like, there's so much out there that life has to offer. And this is all you're thinking and seeing and all that you want to be exposed to. And so it kind of internally kind of disgusted me. And it just kind of created like this indignation that rose up. Like, I'm so against ever being that again, that I'm just completely dedicated to moving in this direction.
I'm really curious, if we fast forward to now, we know that you're incredibly successful. What do you think is the most successful thing you have going on right now?
The number one most successful thing is that I have the ability to wake up and both of my kids are here with me, and I can spend any time with them that I want. We can up and go anywhere we go. My wife and I created financial freedom, but out of the gate, when her and I first got started in business and in what we were doing, we only had one goal, and that was freedom. We wanted the ability to live our lives on our own terms and do what we wanted and not be constrained or confounded by people's opinions of us, by schedules, by jobs, by bosses, by any of those things. And we knew that we wanted to be able to raise our kids in a certain way. And so I think that's probably the biggest success for me now, is that we've created the ability to just do whatever we want and actually be part of our kids' lives, and not be those parents that are, partly involved, or they see us for an hour at night or maybe in the morning. Like, we are there involved daily with them. And I think that's hands down probably one of the most successful things for me.
And one of the things that we know about you is your business is generating $30, $50, $60, $70, $80,000 a month. And I've watched you online, post these stats and just quickly jump by 10, 20,000 per month and just jumping. And I'm going, man, this is like, people take years to make these kind of $10,000 leaps, and these guys doing it by the months. And one of the things that you're really good at, and I understand about you, is that you like funnels, you like writing, you like crafting ways that people can kind of come into a system and then, become buyers and learn more about you and become fans and follow you and buy your stuff. What are some of your best tips, tricks, books? I mean, what would you recommend to someone who wants to learn more about funnels? What is some of the ways that they can get started and learn about it?
Well, first of all, I would definitely recommend, we have a program called Funnel Fanatics. Obviously, I would definitely recommend that. My wife and I pour a lot into it. It's a living, growing training program where we cover all things funnels. But I think probably as well, outside of the program itself, one of the things that guides everything I do, and my wife and I are involved in multiple things. Our main business is in kind of the coaching, the consulting space, but we also have multiple e-commerce businesses where we deal in actual physical products in a wide variety of niches. niches, and we apply the very same things that we do to sell information that we do to sell physical products. And for anybody listening, I think one of the most powerful things that you can do is start small. I see a lot of folks get caught up in spending thousands of dollars on a website and thousands of dollars on a logo and colors and photo shoots and all of these different things that, yes, those things have a place. But until you've proven the concept, until you've proven that people are willing to spend money for whatever it is that you're offering, whether it's a physical product, a solution, a transformation, whatever it is, you need to prove that concept first. And my wife and I start very small in the e-commerce spaces that we're in. We may have an idea for a product, and let's just say it's in the fishing niche. Let's just say, for instance. Instead of us going out and spending all this money to put up a website and fill it with products and do all of these things and spend thousands of dollars on Facebook ads, we'll start with maybe one or two products that we think are going to be hot sellers, put it out there to an extremely hot audience that we would know if these folks don't buy it, then nobody's going to buy it. And put it out there. And then if we see that we're getting a good response, we know we can scale this and move forward. And it's something that I've applied to everything I've done. I've got a book coming out soon. And my concept with the book was, instead of sitting down and writing this 300-page book that's probably going to take me 6 months to a year to write, and I don't really know what pieces people want to hear. I don't know how well it would even sell. And that's a huge commitment. I said, let me start small. Let me do something that's more like a Kindle book. That's a 15,000, 20,000 words, something I can put out there a little bit faster, put it out, see what kind of a response the audience gives me, and then take feedback from folks and apply that to moving forward. So this kind of start small, prove the concept, and grow is something that governs everything that I do.
Mike, that's really great stuff. One of the things that I'm doing right now is I'm releasing a course called Profit from Facebook, and it's about how to utilize Facebook to test markets, how before you even create a product, to see if you could even sell it, or if you have an idea, to see what the response is, to see if people are really interested and you can create fans before you go out and do it. My question for you is, what are some of the tips or tricks for people that they can use to test it? You mentioned one. If you're writing a book, go into Amazon and write short versions, right? Kind of like extended chapters to see how buyers respond to that stuff. What are some of the other methods that you'd suggest for people?
Similar to like what you would say, in the information space that we work when we coach clients and they have an idea for a product or a program, there's a couple of things. One, we would start with, hey, put out a really good freebie around the topic. And then maybe on the backside of that, offer something that's congruent, right in line with the freebie and the idea of a product that you want to sell. Because I think it's one thing to get people to give you their email address for free than it is to get people to actually take out their credit cards and give you money. And the dollar amount doesn't really matter. I believe that buyers are buyers on any level. If they'll spend $7,000, they'll spend $7,000. And I've seen that. And so in the information space, when we work with folks like around programs and stuff, we'll, instead of having them spend all this time creating this product and program and going through this intricate launch sequence to get it out there without ever knowing if it's going to be successful or if it's what the audience wants, we'll have them start really small with something like a freebie that is like right in line with the product, and then create something that they can sell after the person opts in, so that we can prove that people are not only willing to give you their name and email address and get some free stuff, but that they're also willing to pay for whatever that solution would be.
There's so many little nuances to this and so many different ways to do it. I absolutely love what you're saying there. And another way we like to do it is with a tripwire, create that freebie, or maybe it's a really low cost thing. And then if people are buying that, then like you said, if they buy that $7 book, they could buy your $7,000 program, whatever it is. So it's just about aligning it and making sure the audience wants it. So I absolutely love what you're saying there. Before we sign off, is there any last things that you want to share about your journey, what you've learned, where you're at now?
Yeah, definitely. Here's, for everybody listening, I think my story kind of illustrates probably one of the most dramatic from struggles to successes. And so I think the story kind of illustrates that. And so for the folks that are listening and maybe they're in that spot, people struggle with either their ideas and afraid to get them off the ground, or seeing things online and comparing themselves. I would definitely say to take away from this that if a dude like me could walk out of a 10-year prison sentence, and to just kind of give context to that, the 10 years that I spent in prison were also the 10 years when we saw the emergence of a thing called Google a thing called Facebook, a thing called an iPod, and a thing called a smartphone. None of those things existed pre-prison. And so I walked out of this world, and initially it was, definitely overwhelming at first. And so for the folks listening, if I was able to come out of that and I was able to create successes, it's really just about getting started, pressing through the fears, and executing. Execute, execute, execute. Take your ideas, put them to work. Some of them might work, some of them might not, but you'll never know until you put those things into play.
Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Mike. For everybody that's been listening, head on over to thrivinglaunch.com. I have a special gift for you guys. I have a 14-day trial for an incredible system that'll allow you to create a funnel so that you can test out your freebie, test out that cheap giveaway or low cost giveaway so that then you can kind of test the market. And I've got a few tips for you guys as well on how you can kind of test the market beyond what we've talked about in this interview. And if you want to learn more about Mike and what he's up to and Funnel Fanatics, again, head on over to thrivinglaunch.com and we'll see you over there. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Mike.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
You've been listening to the Thriving Launch podcast. For books and resources related to today's episode, make sure to head over to thrivinglaunch.com. We'll see you there. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a review on iTunes, subscribe so you never miss an episode. Tune in tomorrow for the episode with Marty Babbitts, where we talk about relationship communication.